then X has to equal 2. Is that a true statement or a false statement? Is there, I'm telling you. Oh my gosh, what'd you say? It could be -2. So because there is a counterexample that I can prove, I can say X can also be -2. This is a false statement because X squared or 2 squared is 4, but I can also say -2 squared is also +4. So because I can provide a counterexample, this is a false statement. So for number 2, the sum, which means to add, any 2 consecutive numbers. What does consecutive mean?
It's a word.
Back to back, like 2 in a row. So 2 numbers that are next to each other will always be odd. So like if I pick 2 and 3, what is that? 5. If I choose 3 and 4, what is that? So is it always going to be odd? Yes, this is true. So this is technically not a counterexample. I was just trying to show you. Any 2 numbers that I add together that are consecutive, one will always be even and one will always be odd. So it will always produce an odd number. So this is a true statement. So try to think about number 3. If angle X and angle Y are vertical angles, X and Y are congruent. That is true because vertical angles, no matter what, are always congruent. So this is true. So take a second, think about the next one. The next one is false. What do they actually make? They should be supplementary. So my counterexample would be supplementary. Angles, because complementary actually means 90. A linear pair means 180, so they would have to be supplementary. So that is a false statement. So that's invalid. 5 says the product of 2 numbers is always greater than either number. False. What would be a counterexample? So if I use like -2 times, because it says product, times 2 is -4. -4 is not greater than -2 and not greater than +2. If it was 2 positives, yes, 2 times 4 is going to be 8, 2 times 5 is going to be 10. But if I throw in a negative, then that's not true. So that's my counterexample. Okay. So getting into conditional statements, these have to be in a specific format. It has to be written using the words if and then. No matter what, you're going to say if and then. So if the hurricane comes, then school is canceled. That's my conditional statement. The symbolic form that they're going to use to show this is saying P to Q. So P is technically the hypothesis, Q is the conclusion. So the hypothesis is the phrase immediately following the letter. This is word, but it should be letter, whatever. Oh no, if. Yeah, it is a word. If. So if the hurricane comes, the conclusion is then school is canceled. So if is the hypothesis, and then is the conclusion. Or yeah, conclusion. Okay, so in the following, underline the hypothesis and circle the conclusion. So let's do the first one together. If you live in Nashville, then you live in Tennessee. So what is my hypothesis? You live in Nashville. What's my conclusion? You live in Tennessee. Try number 2. This is kind of like the intro to just like separating the sentence. You need to recognize there's 2 pieces to your sentence. So what's my second hypothesis? Tell me. Nice. What's my conclusion? They are complementary angles. Good. Okay, so now I'm going to give you a statement and it's not in a conditional format, meaning it's not using if and then. We have to rewrite it using if and then. So if I say an obtuse angle has a measure greater than 90 degrees, I have to use if, comma, then format. So how could I split this sentence to make a conditional statement? Close, but you flipped your sentence. So we cannot flip the sentence. Yes, that's perfect. So, and obviously when you're writing sentences, it doesn't have to be like exactly verbatim as somebody is saying, but if it is an obtuse angle, then it has a measure greater than 90. And this is what I mean by it's gonna be a little annoying today, but it's okay. Okay, so number 2 says all numbers divisible by 4 are also divisible by 2. How can I change that to if then format? Beautiful. And feel free to shorthand whatever you want. Obviously not all the way, but like, you know, if you can change the sentence to make it a little bit shorter, but still make sense, then that's fine. So once you have your conditional, usually your conditional is given to you. So whatever I said, if I say, if the hurricane comes, then school is canceled, that's my conditional statement. Then what they're going to ask you to do is have the inverse, the converse, or the contrapositive of the statement. So when they ask for the inverse, this is technically formed by negating the sentence or making it a negative statement. So it's formed by negating the hypothesis and the conclusion. So anytime you make it negative, it's going to put a little squiggle in front of your symbols. So it's like the negative of P and the negative of Q, which you're like, that's not a negative sign, it's a squiggle sign. But that's what they use for conditional statements. So anytime you see a squiggle, it means that it's making the statement negative. So if my statement was, once again, if the hurricane comes, then school is canceled, I would say, if the hurricane does not come, then school is not canceled. So you have to use the word not or doesn't or isn't, something negative. Second period was really tripped up on using the word not, and they're like, it doesn't make grammatical sense. You don't have to use the word not. You just have to make it negative. Okay. The converse, if they ask for the converse, this is formed by just switching the sentence. So you're flipping your statement. So I would say, if school's canceled, then the hurricane came. So the symbolic form is just switching Q to P. And then the contrapositive is the last main one that they use. The contrapositive is formed by using both of these combined. You are switching it and you are making it negative. So it's formed by negating it and switching the sentence. So this is negative Q to negative P. The last one is the least used. It's called a biconditional statement. And this one literally takes away words if and then and puts if and only if smack dab right in the middle. So the hurricane comes if and only if school is canceled, which once we start writing our sentences, it's going to be like, does this make sense or does it not? Is this true or is this false? Okay. So some of them are not going to make sense. Some of them will all be true. Some of them will all be false. Some of them will go back and forth. So we're going to say P if and only if Q. And this biconditional statement can only be true if both the conditional and converse are true. And the way that you write it is P double arrow Q. So they're going to use these little arrows. So you do have to be able to recognize them, which is a little annoying, but we're going to go to the back, and instead of you flipping back and forth to your paper, please use the poster that I made that's on the wall instead of you trying to like flip. Okay. So if I give you the statement on the backside, it says, if it is Saturday, then there is no school. The first part, what's up? The first part is my P, my hypothesis. The second part is my Q. Okay. The first thing I need to do is the inverse. Based on my poster, I'm not switching the sentence. I am just making it negative. So negative P to negative Q. So if the original statement was, if it is Saturday, then there is no school, how could I make this statement negative? Yes, because right here, this part, whenever you're not going to say there is not no school, because that doesn't make sense. So a double negative will just make there is school instead of no school. So if it is Saturday, how do I make this part negative? If it's not Saturday, and this is what she was talking about, like instead of saying there is not no school, your two negatives would just make it positive. So what would be the second half of my sentence? Then there is school. So you're using the words if and then. Then there is school. And we need to decide, is this a true statement or is it false? So if it is not Saturday, then there is school. But what about Sunday? This is false because of Sunday. So if it's not Saturday, it could be Sunday and we still not have school. Okay. And if you're confused about the true and false, just try your best on true and false. Really, it's just like rearranging the sentences, the main part that I want you to understand. The converse, if you look at your poster, this is switching P and Q. So I'm going back to my original statement. It was, if it is Saturday, then there is no school. If I switch it, what would be the converse? Perfect. So if there is no school, then it is Saturday. And Claire, why do you say this is false? Because it could be Sunday, once again. Or it could be Monday and we have a teacher work day. So you guys are technically not in school. So don't like overthink the true and false. Just try your best. Okay. The contrapositive is where you're flipping it and you're negating it. So it's negative Q to negative P. The original statement was, if it is Saturday, then there is no school. If I flip it and make it negative, what would be my statement? I have to teach it. I have to. It's okay if I have to teach it. Stop. Go back to class. Go back to class. Go back to class. If there is school, then it is what? It is not Saturday. So if there is school, then it is not Saturday. Is that true or false?
Yeah.
No, it's not. This is true. If there is school, it's definitely not Saturday. It's one day of it. Some people will pick it up, some people won't. It is on your test, which is silly, but here we are.
My debate to this is if you do like school, you can work on Saturday.
Yeah, but there is no school.
But
School is not scheduled. Well, back in my day, there was such thing as Saturday school for the bad kids. I had to go there a couple times. Yeah, they would send you to Saturday school. Okay, biconditional. So biconditional, you have to drop the if and the then, and all you do is stick if and only if right in the center. So we're gonna drop the if part. We're gonna say it is Saturday, if and only if there is no school. So would that be true or would that be false? It is Saturday, if and only if there is no school. Hey, I should have like one like bottom square that she can use. Let her know. Yeah. And then we also have the closet. Yeah, tell her I got the closet. Yeah. Huh? No. It is Saturday if and only if there is no school. True or false? What did we say? True. True. It is true. Okay. Take a second. Number 2 says if two angles are supplementary, then their sum of their measure is 180. So take a second and just try the inverse. You're just making it a negative statement. See if you can do the first one. We'll talk about the first one, and then you guys can try the second one, and we'll talk about the second one. So just try to make it negative. You're not flipping the statement. You're just making it negative. No. Huh? Yeah. If the two angles are not supplementary, then their measure isn't 180. Well, it's not grammar class. Listen, I'm not going to judge your grammar as long as it's not like god awful, to be honest. As long as you get the point across, I'll be like, valid. Sounds great. So for your inverse, you should have something like Lauren said in the back. If two angles are not supplementary, then their sum is not 180. It doesn't have to be exactly what I wrote, but it should sound about the same. You should still have if and then, but you're making both sections negative. Would this be a true statement or would this be a false statement? This would be true because if two angles are not supplementary, then they're not 180. So this is true. The converse, take a second and try the converse. You're taking Q and going to P. Try the converse. Nope. You're taking Q and you're putting it first. So you're literally just flipping the sentence. So the back becomes the front becomes the back. Read it. Beautiful. That's literally what I wrote. So if the sum is 180, then the two angles are supplementary. So feel free to shorten your sentence if you need. It's fine. Yeah. So take a second. Do you think that this is true? Or do you think it's false? True. So sometimes, once again, they'll all be false. Sometimes they'll all be true. Sometimes it'll go back and forth. Try the last two. Take a minute. Try the last two. The contrapositive is flipping it and making it negative. The biconditional is using if and only if in your sentence. Bless you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It is not what.
It's supplements.
Yeah. Put sub for supplementary.
I put if the sum is not 180.
That's fine.
It's
Okay. Somebody want to read their contrapositive? Tell me.
if the sum that is not 180.
Beautiful. Okay. Somebody want to tell me a biconditional? Tell me. Perfect. Okay, so here's mine, just in case you're lost in the sauce or if you need to read it to see your answers. So the contrapositive is if the sum is not 180, then the two angles are not supplementary. That's a true statement. The biconditional says two angles are supplementary if and only if the sum is 180, which is also true. Doesn't obviously have to be exactly like that. The key is biconditional uses this saying if and only if. Contrapositive, you're flipping it and you're making it negative. Don't stress about literally using the word not. Remember, grammar, you can use not, isn't, doesn't, aren't, can't. Okay. So like you don't have to like you literally use the word not. So if you're stressed about the true false part, just try your best. Honestly, it's not a big deal. Okay. Just go with like your first instinct. It's really just practicing your sentencing today. So this is 100% going to be one of the papers that I'm looking for during your binder check next week. 3 and 4, I want you to finish now. And then on the second sheet of paper, you do not have to do, here, I'll show you. So on the second sheet of paper, you have this piece of paper, hopefully. You do not have to do this back bottom portion. So you can cross out this whole section down at the bottom. So feel free to cross this out. It's 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. You can skip 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. The rest, it's really just practicing rearranging the sentence or writing it as a conditional statement. But finish this paper first, okay? This is your notes paper. I'll definitely be looking for this in your binder. This is like your assignment for the day. There's no school because of the hurricane tomorrow and Thursday, if you have not heard. Okay. Tomorrow and Thursday are not, there's no school. It's already been called. They might cancel Friday. Honestly, they're probably going to wait and see what happens with the hurricane, and they might just cancel Friday as well. And then if that happens, homecoming will be moved. So just wait for updates. I'm sure Miss Staten will make an announcement about homecoming week at the end of the day. So work on 3 and 4. I'm passing out papers. If you want to work on test corrections while you're at home with the hurricane, you can get your handy dandy calculator out, you know, do something productive with your life. If your power goes out, you know, you can use your flashlight on your phone.